Hi everyone, I'm Sandy and welcome back to my channel. I'm very excited. I'm always excited. I know I use that word way too much, but I am thrilled today, see, new word, to be able to come and just talk a little bit about my favorite series that I have read every single book in this series, and the series promises still to be going strong for quite a while. And so I just thought I would come and give some more details about it, share my most recent read in that series, and just kind of discuss why I like it so much. My glasses are again crooked. They're driving me crazy. I need to go get them looked at. All right. So what series am I talking about? I have mentioned it a couple of times, but my favorite series is actually the In Death series by JD Robb. This is on my iPad. As you can see here, I have a large number of them on here. And the reason why I have all of these in ebook compared to like my physical library is I can never wait to purchase these. I don't want to spend $30 on a hardback. I don't have room to store all these books, and I have been buying the e-version of these books for so long that I've just continued that habit. So what is this series, first of all, and why do I like it so much? So the In Death series, the first book, which is Naked in Death, was actually published in 1995. And this would be considered, I believe when I looked it up, kind of a detective fiction. I think it's also romancy, suspense fiction with a detective element in it. And it is one that the characters drew me in right from the start, and they've just never let me go. And so I want to share some of that excitement with everyone here, and maybe you'll check it out and like it. Maybe you'll check it out, you won't like it. Either way, I just wanted to talk about it. So here I am. So the first book, which is called Naked in Death, was actually published in 1995. So the series has been going for quite some time. I mean, you're talking now 20 plus years. Yeah, 25, 26, 27 years that this series has been in print. And this JD Robb is a pseudonym of Nora Roberts. So Nora Roberts writes a lot of different types of novels and romance novels, puts out a huge amount of content in a year, every year, which is absolutely incredible. But the In Death series is the one that is near and dear to my heart. So the In Death series stars a main character whose name is Eve Dallas, and she is a police lieutenant working in New York City in the homicide division. And these books are all set in the future, though the future is getting much closer to us the longer the series goes, and I'll explain that too. But she works as a police lieutenant investigating homicides in New York City. She is, at the start of the series, I love her character because she is independent, very, very smart, pretty much a badass, can kick your butt. Doesn't really take anything from anyone, and just is living her life and solving crimes, and is just absolutely amazing, strong, independent female character. She has a very troubled backstory. The one thing with this series, if you do read it, know that there's some trigger warnings for child abuse, sexual abuse, just a lot that happened in multiple characters' backstories. So hers in particular is very difficult and very graphic, and it carries through much in the beginning of the series, and then slowly starts to fade out the more of the series that you read. But just know that going in, that there is a component of that. So the book one, Naked in Death, starts off with a murder. And Eve Dallas is called in, even though she was not supposed to be working, because she is their top investigator. And this is a very high profile murder, and the chief of police wants her involved because it is very public kind of figure, or related to a very public figure. And so she's not supposed to be working, but like I said, they pull her in, and her old partner, whose name is Feeney, Captain Feeney. I always forget his first name. I think it's Ryan, but everyone calls him Feeney. And so they get pulled in to investigate this horrible crime. Now, this is set in the future, so there's events that haven't actually happened in our world. There's something called the Urban Wars. There's things like guns are not part of the world. They're only available to collectors. They use different types of weapons in the police force. So they go to investigate this crime, and the murder has occurred using a old style firearm. And so they have started now to try and investigate and see who her immediate contacts are, who she saw recently. And it brings Eve Dallas to a character whose name is Rourke. And Rourke only has the one name. And Rourke is described as incredibly handsome, as a billionaire, very good with technology, very shady kind of upbringing. You're not really sure, is he a good guy or a bad guy in this in this first book. She is investigating him as a possible suspect, and they meet and have some immediate attraction, which you read the first book going, is Eve going to fight that off, or is she going to end up sleeping with him? Are they going to be in a relationship in the first book? And it's really about their kind of building of that first relationship. Eve Dallas in the beginning books really doesn't have many friends. She doesn't get out much. She really is living to work. And that's her whole world. And then in comes Rourke and just throws everything in a whirlwind. And it is so much fun to read those first books, because it's all about just them meeting and their relationship and progressing in that. So, of course, Eve Dallas investigates the crime and figures out who the culprit is. No spoiler, because that's pretty much the formula in all of these books. And falls in love with Rourke. Again, not a spoiler, because the whole series is about all of their relationships. So that was really the first book. You just get a glimpse into some of the main characters. As you continue on through the series, part of why I think the series is lived for so long is that the characters are not progressing at the same pace that we are in the real world. The first book was in 1995. In the books, by the way, there's over 50 of them. The characters have only went through maybe 2 or 3 years. And so you get a long and drawn out story of these characters. And it just feels like you're being taken along at a reasonable pace, even though looking back, it's been almost 30 years. So in the first couple of books, it's all about their relationship, her solving these new murders. You get a little bit of new characters introduced kind of in every book. There's a coroner that they work with quite a bit. There is, lab techs that are introduced. There's other officers that are introduced, other detectives that are helping in different divisions. There's always kind of someone new coming in. And you do get to a point where you have a very consistent cast of main characters. And they are some of my favorite characters as well. And I don't want to talk about them too much, because it is fun going through the book and going through the books and getting introduced to those characters. But I think it's part of why this particular series has had such long legs, because it helps keep it fresh, keeps it new. There's someone interesting and different all along, and all of the characters. The other reason why I think this series has lasted so long compared to some other ones is that the characters are always growing. They're never in the same spot. People are getting married, having children, leaving jobs. There's always some progression forward of different careers, and that is the part that I think I like about that, because I'm so excited to catch up with these characters and find out what's new in their lives, even though they're all completely fictional. It's just something that I find a lot of joy in. And it is, I don't want to say it's fun, because some of the content is very dark, and it is often you're investigating very gruesome murders. Sometimes there's more than one murder, sometimes they're interrelated, sometimes they're not. The one kind of, not criticism, but kind of reliable thing is, she doesn't, the Nora Roberts or JD Robb doesn't like killing off central characters. And so you kind of go in just going, okay, well, if the person makes it, you know that they're going to be around for a while. Though that's not always true. Sometimes characters are introduced and they're only in that one book, but they're not killed and they're not a bad guy, but they don't show back up again. And so it's an interesting idea that you have just like these little pieces of characters. So you never really know when you're introduced to a new character if it's one that's going to have longevity with the story or if it's one that will just go away. But overall, it's brain candy is what I would call it. These are not deep literary masterpieces. They are just books that are ones that will entertain, make you think, make you wonder if you know who did it, and have some steamy romance thrown in. But they are definitely, like I said, my favorite series. I have read every single one, including the last one, which I'll talk about now. So the last book was actually just released in January, and it's called Abandoned in Death. And so all of them obviously say in death. Sometimes there's bind-ups, I guess, of different authors, and there'll be like one short story with a JD Robb snippet in it. And so the other thing is, I'm kind of all over the place, but the other thing is with this series is that you're not really going to be easily able to pick up story number 25 and start from there. That would be another kind of criticism maybe of this, is that the characters are so interconnected and the stories continue. So sometimes the beginning of the next book starts at the right immediately following the last story. Like she's getting back from a vacation because she left at the end of the last book, and so I don't know how it would be if you picked up middle of the series. But I also would say don't miss the first few, at least, because the first few books are where you get the meat of those two main characters of Rourke and Dallas. And so just their relationship building, for that part alone, I would recommend at least reading the first three, and then maybe you could go on and read some others, but you kind of need that just early foundation of their relationship and get that understanding of Eve Dallas. So the last book of Abandoned in Death is one that starts off differently than other ones. It actually starts off kind of with a flashback of someone who's not Eve Dallas. And so you get this kind of backstory of the person. You're not really sure what happened to her. She kind of crashes into a lake, and then you go to current times where someone has been killed. And there's this kind of back and forth of story in there. It was a little bit of a different way of telling the story, and how they kind of introduced the person who did it was also unique and added some conflict, I guess, between some of the people in the stories, which I thought was really good. I feel like I'm very, very biased in rating this series because I did rate that one 5 stars. It was one that compared to like all of the ones in the series, I really did like quite a bit. I still say that the first ones were my favorites. I know that there's a couple other people on BookTube that have also read that series. I believe Heidi from My Reading Life is one of them. I believe she read one not too long ago. And then Christina at Knitting Books, Etc., I believe has also read these books. I've seen them on her Instagram posts. And then Amanda at Reading and Writing Life also started reading the series. So it is very, very popular. But for me, the reason, again, why I really like it is that it doesn't take, it's not going over 30 years. You're not getting big jumps in their time. So the 6 months in between you reading the stories feels like it was from one day to the next. The characters are always growing. They're always moving, always learning, always having different relationships, all of those things, and it all makes for just a really intriguing set of stories. And so I have read some other series. By the way, I'm not afraid of discontinuing a series. I have a number of series that I've read 1, maybe 2, and thrown them out. I'm not afraid of getting rid of a series. I don't feel obligated to read the next one. There are also series that I have read numerous of them and then finally got rid of them because the characters didn't move. So one of those would be the Stephanie Plum series by Janet Ivanovich. The first books, these books are always like 1 for the money, 2 for the dough. And the beginning books, I laughed out loud by reading those. And by the 20th book, 25th book in the series, Stephanie Plum was still in the same place. Was still trying to figure out, okay, what relationship am I in? Who am I going to date? And I had mentioned that to someone, and they said it was comforting to have that character just always be the same. And I can see that point, but for me, I always wanted to see some growth. I want to see you moving. I want to feel like you're not stuck in the same place over 30 novels. And so, but that is really just my fun update for Thursday. I've been able to be home. I'm able to be home now for about a week. I am so thankful to say I don't have any upcoming doctor's appointments for my parents, which is fantastic. Things are settling a little bit. We have a little bit more, well, not a little bit. We have quite a bit more to do, but we're in a lull right now, which is great. And hopefully I'll be able to read some more and to make some more videos for you. As always, though, like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, everyone, thanks. Bye.